Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles. I am your host, Roddykat. You can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at News Nerds Need on Twitter. You can find me at CPCaps on Instagram.
South Carolina with Columbia down the way.
And sound effects you've heard have come from none other than our man in Brooklyn, one football watching agent _70 on Twitter and Instagram.
What's up, everybody? Let's go Giants. Spread love, it's the Brooklyn way.
Yes. As I said earlier, the fans are back apparently. And I just noticed that shirt you had on. That nice Toretto's Garage shirt for those.
Toretto's Garage.
For those listening to the audio. You should watch the video version sometime. See our handsome faces. Well, 8 to 7 handsome faces and me.
We could definitely use some views on Twitch and YouTube.
It'd be nice. It would be nice. But also you can find this here podcast on the Coleslaw the Podcast Network. That's cspn.us.
Do it today.
You can also find us on your podcast perusal place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Coleslaw the Podcast Network's SoundCloud page. For bad, I was about to do that same thing you just did. But you can also find us recording live, like I said a little bit ago, every Thursday night, most Thursday nights, on the YouTube channel of The Click Nation. That's youtube.com/The Click Nation, but also twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles. So yeah, we are about to get into the recap of episode 6 of What If on Disney Plus. And I believe
and it is What If Killmonger rescued Tony Stark. Minor spoilers here, but now we are going to ring the spoiler bell because even though we do our best to strive towards lighter spoilers, broad stroke review stuff, we're going to touch on some stuff here that's going to be some spoilers for the episode. So spoilers here in after the spoiler bell in 3, 2, 1.
It was Killmonger all along. Dun 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 dun.
Absolutely.
So we start on familiar territory with the pretty much the beginning of Iron Man #1. Turns into death.
Bear in mind, hold that thought. Bear in mind, because we start back in Iron Man back in 2008. Everything that happens here has to be referenced in that time frame.
Yes, coming from that specific coming from that time frame.
Exactly.
Right.
While there are some familiar beats that we're going to run into as Roddykat and I go through the episode, you have to reset your chronometer, as it were. You know, we've been reading too much Kang stuff. You have to reset your calendar to read 2008 and think about where some of these other MCU characters that we encounter in this episode would be, or where we would find them circa 2008. Go ahead, Roddykat.
Indeed. So yes, like I said, familiar beats. Tony's in the desert, heading to an arms deal, or heading from an arms deal, I guess, at that point, because he had already done the whole missile thing, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. At that point, they had already done the Jericho test.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's coming back in the fun V, not the humdrum V.
Yes, as he said. And
as
of course,
as he told whatchamacallit, Terrence Howard, man.
Yes, ain't no Terrence Howard in this joint though.
Oh, he's been retconned out for sure now.
Yes, he has. But we'll get to that in a moment. So yeah, familiar beats up until the point where Tony ends up leaving the truck. The shells and stuff going on around. The familiar shell drops near him, but gets picked up. Coincidentally picked up and thrown away by one Killmonger who just so happens to be there. And that right there, folks, should be your first clue as to where this was going.
Right. And what was great is that there are several characters in this episode that have their suspicions, but there are some who are just blindly
Clueless.
Following the program.
Yes.
So, even at this point, I was like, so what's going on here? And I was glad that there were some characters who picked up on the fact that this was highly suspicious.
Right, exactly. And I was like, yes, and we'll get to that in a second too, because I'm sitting here like, yeah, how did wait, just so happened, really?
Right.
But anyway, like I said, we'll get to that. So, of course, Tony's life gets saved by Killmonger. They get introduced in a as Tony says, in a spectacular way. And of course, Tony takes Killmonger under under his wing, I guess per se. And Killmonger gets Tony's trust, and then of course most of the things that would end up happening, I guess, going into Iron Man 2 happen. Like I was actually cool with this part. Stain kind of gets his comeuppance earlier than he would have at the end of Iron Man 1, because Killmonger just so happens to have receipts, as he says,
right,
about the whole thing. Which now that I think about it, or thinking back on that, kind of never really sat right with me. The fact that Stain was the one dealing with the 10 rings.
Right, that he had basically hired out the hitman.
Right. So yeah, that part, and I think somebody else kind of mentioned that too, and at least in one video that I mentioned, I'm like, yeah, that was kind of weird. That the way they made it about that, as opposed to like the 10 rings proper or something like that. But regardless, it is what it is. But so Stain gets carted away. Of course, Killmonger gets more of Tony's trust, and even is made ends up being made COO. Because first he was like security chief, and then it was like made COO like right after this fight, and I mean right after that fact or whatnot. And of course, Killmonger has plans of his own going throughout this whole thing, to which he happens to bring up with Tony, getting into his good graces, and Tony, who can't resist a good tinkering project, goes along with this. And it was at this point we get a nice little reference to, which I guess now would be the point to say a lot of people from that era, with the exception of Pepper Potts, Gwyneth Paltrow, and actually no, Jeff Bridges doesn't do Stain in this one actually. But mostly everybody else who played their characters around this time came back, with the exception of Terrence Howard, who was replaced by Don Cheadle, as we noted earlier. So, pretty much, a long story short. Uh-oh. Oh dear. Sorry, folks.
Yeah, we're getting some feedback from one of our viewers on Twitch, and there seems to be some technical difficulties on the audio side, so please stand by for just a few moments. And we promise we'll...
That's weird, because one I heard... Oh, yep, also getting something from Crap.
Gotta love it.
Let's see something here, folks. We got levels, that's for sure. Oh, wow. How... Oh, wait. No, that's not... Testing.
Test. 1, 2.
Testing. There we go. Okay.
Test. 1, 2.
Testing. There we go. Okay.
Test. 1, 2.
Testing. There we go. Okay.
Test. 1, 2.
Testing. I think we're good now.
Yes, it looks like it.
That's weird. Hopefully we're not doubling up also, because I know that's going to be a thing. So actually I'm going to while we're here. Excellent. That is good to know.
Double toil and trouble.
Sounds good. Okay. Let's see. Does that still hold up if when I'm doing? Does that still hold up if when I'm doing? Does that still hold up if when I'm doing? Does that still hold up if when I'm doing? Does that still hold up if when I'm doing? Does that still? Okay, that's weird.
I was about to say, I'm like, yo, you got yourself on loop.
Yeah, no, I don't know why it's doing that either.
I thought that was absolutely on purpose.
No, I mean, I can do an instant replay, but we're not going into that territory just yet. But thank you, Cammy.
Instant replay sucks in football.
But thank you for my lovely girlfriend, Cammy, and who's in the chat. And thank you to Well Seasoned Gamer, who also said something on Twitter. Thank you both for being here. So let's, well, I will have to do something with the video part, on YouTube. Unfortunately, I can't do too much about the Twitch version of this, but, I'll be sure to, do something about and it should come out on the recording also, so that shouldn't be a problem.
That's the point of a backup recording, people.
There is that also. Yes. So, that being said, I guess to do a recap of what we just said, in case you did not hear, we're talking about What If, episode 6, and I apologize for anybody... Science, exactly. I apologize to anybody who might hear this again.
Right. And again, for those who didn't hear, spoiler alert.
Yes, because actually, wait, I'm going to do edit at 13:14. I'll put myself a note at that. Anywho, yes. So real quick, episode 6, What If? Starting off in 2008, Tony Stark, Iron Man. Gets saved by Killmonger before he takes the shell to the chest. Gets into Tony's good graces.
Right, basically, he prevents Tony Stark from ever taking any shrapnel.
Exactly.
That's an important point to be reminded of, because we essentially don't get Tony going down the road of becoming Iron Man.
Right. And it is from this point that, like I said, Killmonger gets into Tony's good graces. And starts kind of getting into his ear about some things. Because of this, Tony did not learn the same lessons he did when he did take the shrapnel and got taken by the 10 Rings. And the fact that Killmonger was there at all should be suspicious to anybody. But like I said, we'll get into that momentarily. But Tony's basically just like, hey, there was a lot of people that died, so we need to hit harder with more, we need to make sure that people, we strike before before people get hurt, basically. So Tony stays in the arms deal race, in the arms deal practice
Business.
Yes.
Yeah.
And dealing with the military at that, which also will come up in a few. And of course, Killmonger, being Killmonger, has his own ideas or has his own plan going on at the same time.
Right. There are ulterior motives at play here, and what we were saying earlier, before we discovered that our audio wasn't going out on YouTube and Twitch, was that Killmonger's intentions were thinly veiled behind supposed good intentions, and some characters picked up on it very quickly. Some characters remained blind to those ulterior motives throughout the entire episode, which was just shocking to me.
Right, but as Agent said before the show, like some people kind of were nerfed because of to keep the story going.
Right, for purposes of the story, right? For purposes of telling the story, some people are nerfed intellectually and power-wise. That's kind of what happens in these what-if stories. Powers and intellects are somewhat reduced just so the stories can move forward. But as we were saying, as Roddykat was saying, Killmonger's gotten into Tony Stark's good graces, and what ends up happening is that Killmonger reveals that Obadiah Stane was behind the plot to kidnap and or at least the plot against Tony Stark, because he has quote unquote receipts. This is a phrase that was not in vogue in 2008 but has become in vogue now. Hold on to your love, right? And
nice.
So shout out to Fife, who's in love with Dawn. Getting back to what we were saying, Killmonger has proof that Obadiah Stane was behind the plot against Tony Stark, and basically deposes or is elemental in the dethroning of Obadiah Stane from his COO position at Stark Industries.
Right.
Somehow, Tony promotes Eric Stevens, aka Killmonger, to the head of security once he's back from Afghanistan. But then once Stane gets taken down, Tony Stark promotes Killmonger to COO. And at that point, Pepper's spidey sense is definitely tingling, and she's unable to find any information on him, even with the help of Rhodey. And at this point, we have a transition to Killmonger telling Tony that he has theoretical plans for automated combat drones that he came up with in college, but he wasn't able to crack the interface.
Because lest we forget, Killmonger is a graduate of MIT, which was said in the Black Panther movie. So this is not stuff that's not out of the ordinary. Like, this is stuff we found out during the course of the MCU.
Right. He's he's gifted.
Yes.
He may not be the same genius level, but he's definitely gifted because he has a lot of the theory down. And obviously he's got a lot of the tactical and physical abilities as well because he's a Navy SEAL. So at this point, he tells Tony that their mutual alma mater, MIT, right? They're both graduates of MIT, and so we have Tony looking up Killmonger's thesis and pulling out some of the schematics, and it turns out that these schematics look very much like Mobile Suit Gundams.
Yes, or actually, realistically, they look more like. So if you don't know. Michael B. Jordan, who's also, and I think this might have been lost in the when the audio was out. Also, a lot of people returned to voice themselves as their MCU characters, with the exception of obviously Tony Stark, Gwyneth Paltrow as Pepper Potts, and Jeff Bridges as Obadiah Stane.
Yeah, Jeff Bridges, of course, we know. You know, he was ill and indisposed while this was going on.
Right, but that being said, we come to find out that like Agent 70 said all of this, but the schematics that Killmonger that Tony brings up, while yes, Gundam was being referenced, they look a little bit more like they kind of look like those Genlock. So if you didn't know, Michael B. Jordan is also a part of this animated show. Genlock is one of the main voices, and some design
animated show and comic book.
Yes, and comic, because yes, they did make a comic book out of that. So there was kind of like that, and we even get the line during this part where Killmonger says, "I like anime," which we know Michael B. Jordan also likes anime and has said that line verbatim in real life. So that was a pretty interesting reference. So anyway, Tony helps Killmonger.
Talk about meta commentary.
Exactly. So I thought that was a nice of them to put that in there because it's like, there you go. Michael B's love of anime gets referenced and shouted out during the course of this. But that, like I said, Gundam reference, and Tony not being able to resist the challenge was like, yeah, we can do something with this and clean this up a little bit. So he and Killmonger end up working on these plans. Yeah, I think was Tony said that he was trying to crack the code, or no, Killmonger said that but couldn't, and then Tony pretty much brought up the arc reactor, but they were like, nah, that's not it. And then this is when Killmonger brings out his father's ring, which is made out of vibranium, and that ends up being used as the power source for this prototype as they test out, and also the prototype gets marked with Killmonger's moves, which will come up later on, because they use Killmonger as a model for this thing's moves. Also, I think I saw something where it said that like especially around the face, it looks like some of the robot designs from Whiplash and Iron Man 2, which I don't remember all that much, and
I gotta look again.
Yeah, so but this is what you get for watching Easter egg videos after you watched programs such as this. Sometimes you might, sometimes something else comes across. Anyway, the story keeps going.
Right, they need vibranium.
Yes.
Right, and so who do they go to for help? None other than Gollum. I mean, Ulysses Claw.
Indeed. And of course, this is around Age of Ultron time and Tony.
Well, no, it's not. I don't think. See, here's the thing, right? So what we run into, and this is, I don't know if the audio had been restored or not, but what I was reminding Roddykat to keep in mind was that a lot of the settings that we see come later in the MCU timeline, but we have to kind of push everything back a little bit because we're starting from 2008.
True.
So
you're right. So
what we know
earlier
is that what we know is that Claw is an infamous international arms dealer that Tony Stark has seen at different functions, as being in the same business field. So ultimately, they have to try to make a deal, but they use the auspices of the United States military to try to make a deal for some vibranium. And this is yet another machination set in motion by one Eric Killmonger.
Yep. So, and it is at this point during this. So yeah, like you just said, that things come a little bit earlier than what they did with what we've seen in the MCU. A deal kind of goes down, but then gets interrupted by one T'Challa the Black Panther, who comes in, kind of cleans up. he talks to Rhodey for a second, but then both he and Rhodey get taken down by a slightly familiar looking sonic weapon. That apparently...
That was from Iron Man 1.
Exactly.
That's from Iron Man 1. It's the same sonic weapon that
Stain uses on Tony.
Yeah, that Stain uses on Tony, and Stain uses on the member of the Ten Rings that had been holding Tony hostage. The field leader of that branch of the Ten Rings.
Mm-hmm. So Killmonger comes kind of shows his hand on this one to Rhodey and Black Panther, kills them both, but blames it on other basically I think Wakanda gets the blame or something. I can't remember.
Yes, Wakanda gets the blame. More nerfing of T'Challa's vibranium mesh uniform here, because I was like, what? That's not supposed to work.
Right. Right. But, yeah, it was like nothing like that should have worked on T'Challa, but yeah, it did.
Well, the Sonic thing I can understand. The way he ended up getting taken out didn't make sense. Did not.
Yeah.
So
right. So
ultimately, it all goes to forwarding the momentum of the story. So we have to just take that as they wrote it.
Right, and just like this next part.
What's that?
And just like this next part, because
then we get back to Killmonger basically going back to Tony, but finally Tony figures out what happens, especially because and it's most likely because Rhodey went down in this particular exchange as well.
Right. So that happens. There's a confrontation, which ultimately goes badly for Tony. The same prototype mech robot, whatever, ends up getting used against the Killmonger, but who ends up taking it out with a vibranium spear, and also taking out Tony with that same spear through his shoulder. Weirdly enough, but hey, sure, people die in strange ways in movies. Why not that? And it wasn't even the shoulder close to the heart; it was the right shoulder.
Right.
So anyway, that being the case, the U.S. military, because Rhodey got taken out of this, which is something and Thunderbolt Ross being involved, I guess that should be stated at this point. They did end up taking over Stark Industries and staging an invasion of Wakanda. All of course, all according to Killmonger's plan, but letting other people think that they're the ones. So a whole bunch of these drones get made. They march on Wakanda once they find out where it is, thanks to Claw, who gets taken out after calling Killmonger a boy. Right at the force field border. Let's see, the drones kind of get put in place, but I believe this is when Killmonger takes. Oh yeah, he kills. That's right, I forgot about this part.
This part is similar to the Black Panther movie.
Exactly. So he kills Claw, takes Claw into Wakanda and says, "Here, I brought you justice." Gets in the Wakanda, starts to get into the Wakandans, more specifically T'Chaka's, and not like Shuri's, because Shuri's like, "Why do we have to trust a stranger?" But she kind of still goes along with it, and T'Chaka's kind of going along with it because he's like, for some strange reason, he's not thinking anything crazy about this. So that's going according to Killmonger's plans. Again, the U.S. military gets a lot of drones. They set that up according to plan there, but Killmonger has his own plan that he shares, part of which with the Wakandans. That part goes pretty much without a hitch, because the plan was to get a bunch of these drones under the force field and shut them down when the force field closes. That happens, but then Killmonger kind of has a backup. I mean, has the drones set up with a backup, which start up again. They still march on the Wakandan capital, and of course, he puts himself in T'Chaka's and people's good graces by fighting along with the other Wakandans.
Right. Somewhat unconvincingly.
Yes, I agree with that. Because obviously, well, not obviously, but Shuri, like T'Chaka gets kind of taken in by Ramonda, who we found out was the general of the Dora Milaje. Kind of skeptical. Shuri's kind of skeptical, but they still kind of go along with it to a point, or at least one of them seems like they go along with it until we get to the end of this. So there's a big fight with the drones and stuff, and Wakanda and Ramonda has a nice touching battle cry at one point, which you should definitely see. But again, like I said, Killmonger kind of gets into T'Chaka's good graces. He ends up making him the Black Panther. But I think that's when it ends for him, and then we come to find out that Shuri, not taken for a fool, goes to Pepper Potts and was like, "Look, I got proof as to what happened to Tony and we
have T'Chaka. A mutual enemy. That's essentially what it comes down to." So, what's great about these What If episodes, and I understand that some people are left wanting more, but that's the point. You don't get the end of the story. The point is we see where this could go.
Right. Like, yeah, even the what ifs in the comics kind of leave off at a point to where that could be brought, could be continued, or just left right there. So that's kind of how they go. Kind of leave you, like Agent 7 said, leave you wanting more. This one, like I said, if it wasn't for the fact that this one was kind of like you kind of knew where this was going from pretty much the beginning. It was still pretty decent, but at the same time, it's like, well, it was just following the same beats in a different time frame.
Right. Ultimately, what it is that you were waiting to see if there was going to be a hero turn.
Right.
If there was going to be a moment where the path that Killmonger was on would change, but there were strong hints. You did not need to be, the most deft and adept detective to figure out that his intentions were not honorable.
Yeah. So, and therefore played out because part of me was thinking of well, maybe he's still gonna maybe because of this drone ends up somehow making him into Iron Man and he turns into being a hero or something like that, or Killmonger ends up being Iron Man or even Ironmonger. I mean not Ironmonger, War Machine.
Right.
But no. So that kind of just left it all right, yeah, here we go. We just get into the same place, just in a different time frame, and not saying that was a bad, but it was just kind of predictable in that sense. But still ended up pretty good because, like I said, I am one of those people who would love to see what happens, after this, what ends up happening after this, and we still don't know whether there is any of the things that are coming up this season going to be revisited outside of the making of the multiversal Avengers thing.
Right.
But we will see going into the second season, if not the ends of this season.
Alrighty, moving on.
So yeah. Now we get into
the Hall of Justice,
the comic books of the week. And I believe we said we were going to start off with Black Widow number 11.
Alrighty, so Black Widow number 11 is written by Kelly Thompson with art by Rafael De La Torre, colors by Jordi Belair, and letters by VC's Corey Pettit. So this is the resumption of the Black Widow story. Specifically, where we find ourselves is in the aftermath of the whole Apogee mission, and we initially find ourselves in, what is it, the web that they call themselves? I'm still opening up my my copy of this week, but we find ourselves in the web, and the supporting cast in this issue, well, in this book, really, are Anya Corazon, Spider Girl, and a character who I don't think has received. I don't think she's received a code name as of yet. Lucy Nguyen?
Not yet.
Right. So the best we can say is that she's Vietnamese, or at least part Vietnamese.
Yes.
And we encounter Yelena Belova overseeing this little combat training session, but ultimately the point of this early part of the story is that Natasha is heading out to get some information, and it takes some teeth pulling on Yelena Belova's part to figure out where Natasha's going. We find out where Natasha goes, and she's getting some information on this current case that they're investigating involving Apogee and these superpowered characters that are popping up, and these drugs that they're giving out to give out superpowers. We also find out that Natasha is still harboring feelings and guilt, even for what happened to the pseudo family, partially real family that was forced upon her, in a sense, at the beginning of this book. And now she is on the hunt for these two characters. Otherwise, that's sort of an aside that we're going to be, I guess, revisiting as a plot point further down the line. And the crux of the rest of the issue, that is, the rest of the issue involves Natasha and Yelena in a battle with, I guess they are paternal twins, a boy and a boy and a girl who exhibit interesting powers.
Yes, and also the same characteristics of the Crimson Twins from G.I. Joe. In a way.
Right. Yeah, almost exactly the same. They definitely have similar traits, but there is one actual superpower that that they're using, that they exhibit here. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I kind of find that amusing. I didn't think of it that way because I got hung up on the actual superpowered part.
Right.
But yeah, it turns out that there's much more of a superpowered underworld in San Francisco than we knew prior to this book. And obviously, Kelly Thompson is trying to establish that's why Natasha is setting up shop in San Francisco. There are superhero things going on.
Right.
And I mean, we knew some of it before, like Daredevil was there before.
Oh,
it's not the first time we've had superheroes in San Francisco. The X-Men were off the coast of San Francisco for a while.
Right, the West Coast Avengers. Then there was the whole quote unquote underworld with the Shroud and his whole people. So yeah, there were definitely people. Which I actually thought that's where this was going. I thought Natasha was going to like hook up with the Shroud if he was still around, and his crew, the Night Shift. Which
right. And as always, the first gen OG champions. I never read that book, but I don't know where they were based. I don't know if they were an all Cali team or Northern Cali, which would put them around San Fran, or Southern around LA. I don't know.
And Widow was a part of that group, and I believe they might have been around San Francisco. I'm not entirely sure. That's a good question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. That's why I bring it up. It's like, maybe there's a champions link here because of the Widow being a champion back then. But in any event, all that speculation aside, essentially what happens is that these twins give the information they want to give to the Widow and the two widows. And it turns out that there is much more to happen. This is only the first issue of this particular story arc.
Yes, and the information they gave came after a fight with both of the widows, just for funsies, I guess, and to try to, see where they where they match up, I guess, was seeming the case. But like you just said, there was ulterior motives as to why they gave the information they did. But after that, they also sent word to some mysterious figure who we don't necessarily see. We also come to find out that Apogee was not the top dog in this, which we kind of figure, and I think that was what prompted Natasha to kind of look into this loose end, because she felt like, there was something that was still missing about that whole last arc in dealing with Apogee. And she starts to get a little bit of a piece of that here, going into the next issue. And that's pretty much where we end up. That was good. This is still continues to be a good book. I'm loving some of the art choices in this book, especially with
no, it's dilatory in this issue, because I think he and Elena Casagrande split the art duties on this book, but they are exhibiting similar design and layout choices, and that's what keeps this book very consistent.
Right.
And I would also say what keeps this book super consistent is that Kelly Thompson, I believe, adopted this. I don't know if this is pre-existing or not, but the banter between the widows, which I was more fully introduced to in the Black Widow movie. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that really existed to this level prior to this run of Black Widow. I just don't know.
Right.
So it's fun to see that banter, that level of sisterly rivalry.
It seems to be a lot more played up now that the movie. Yeah, now that the movie's out, it seems to be played up a lot more than I believe we may or may not have seen in recent history with them too.
Right.
We definitely have noticed it in Elena's character within, like I said, within a lot of recent her recent showings. Not just in this book, but in a couple other books that she's been in.
Right.
So yeah, that being said, that was Black Widow number 11. Still pretty good. Next we will go into, I don't know which one we're going to. Yeah, yes. Let's go into
a big anniversary issue this week. So let me pull up.
And sadly, I forgot to get the covers for this week, so I don't have covers, folks. Sorry.
That's okay.
If you're watching the video version.
So this is, the legacy number is 680, which is a big hint towards the fact that we are not that far from 700. Mm-hmm. It is also the 60th. We're starting to celebrate the 60th year of the Fantastic Four. And that is cause for celebration in this issue, Fantastic Four number 35. So I'm just going to spit out the creative team real quick, and then Roddykat and I are going to bandy back and forth the details of this story. The book is split up into 3 sections. There's a main section and 2 backup stories. The main section is written by Dan Slott. The smaller backup story is written by Jason Liu, and the larger backup story is written by Mark Waid. The art on the main story is by John Romita Jr. The smaller story is illustrated by Jason Liu, and the larger backup story is illustrated by Paul Renaud. Inks are by J.P. Mayer and Cam Smith on the first story. Jason Liu does the second story, and Mark Morales and Paul Renaud do the larger backup story, together with Raphael. Let me open up this box. Raphael Fonteres and Scott Hanna. Colors are by Marte Gracia and Eric Arciniega. Jason Liu does his own colors, and Paul Renaud apparently does his own colors. And this book is lettered in its entirety by none other than our favorite Python, VC's Joe Caramagna. Take it away, Roddykat.
You did say Mark Waid, right?
I did.
Okay.
The larger backup story is written by Mark Waid.
Yes. So I will go ahead and say that this is a potential click of the week for me because I enjoy what was going on here. And the main story has to do with... So this will probably be familiar with some folks of a certain vintage. There is a certain chrono scavenger hunt by various iterations of the Kangs, and not We the Kangs, as in Kang the Conqueror. Or actually, as they put forth here, variants, because that parlance is now getting used a little bit more.
It is absolutely it has migrated over to the Marvel comic universe lexicon, as we were saying earlier. They are now using variant as a way to describe versions of characters, which is, we would see all sorts of different ways that they would describe it. So that is apparently a permanent term now in the Marvel comic universe.
Indeed. So, and even so much as the TVA shows up in this issue at various points. But like I said, there is a scavenger hunt, let's say, that is done by the Kang family, because there's this one supposed prize that they're all what was it? Mortis pretty much sends them after, while he chronicles their story. So there's basically, if you
essentially is that there's one thing missing, right? And Immortus says that the claim is that their esteemed ancestor left it for them.
Right, that being Nathaniel Richards, the original. The one that got the ball rolling on the...
Well, not that he left it for them, but it's the single greatest prize.
Right. The
single greatest treasure in the universe, and they're supposed to look for it.
Correct. So it ends up being a scavenger hunt because the pieces of said prize are within 4 timelines. So they all have to go after one. It's basically... and I hate to reference... I don't hate to reference this again, but I will reference a G.I. Joe 5-parter where things are scattered about the globe, and they have their... there's
the Weather Dominator.
Yes, exactly. But also, there's a version of Almost Got Him from the Batman the Animated Series show, because once they all bring their pieces back, they have to recount the stories of how they got them, and how they got them is they have to go through the time versions of very different time versions of the Fantastic Four to get said pieces. And when I mean go through, as we come to find out in the content of the story. There's also a supposed new Kang, a new version of Kang that shows up in here some kind of way. I say that because it's time and it's Kang and things happen, and it's also comics. So that being said, all of the versions of Kang, all the variants of Kang does their thing. There's one new variant who is who is the last one to recount his part of the story, but as you come to find out, it was a ruse in a sort by, of course, one Reed Richards, who turns the tables on, well, not necessarily turns the table, but pretty much gets the upper hand in the situation with a time varied team of Fantastic Four. And it ends up being a pretty good story because of the way it goes. Like I said, I'm kind of skipping over the hows and the whys and the different art styles and the different time frames that we get to see. Because we even get to see when the Kangs are recounting their stories, different covers for the different that's around the different time periods that they're supposed to be set in with when they recount the story. And those kind of touches are pretty great. Were pretty great in the story.
Right. It's really one art style because it's John Romita Jr.
Well, yeah.
What Roddykat is mentioning or referring to are the costumes. They're definite shout outs to the different eras that the Fantastic Four have been in. We touch on the Future Foundation. We touch on the time when Ben Grimm was running around with a metal mask.
Right.
Because he was wounded.
Right. Well, that and the covers that are shown like right before they recount their stories for those time frames around the same time.
Right. So that was fun to see. Also, the ending of the story, and I'm not going to spoil it, but And what's great about it, what's great about it is that, we all know that the FF, what the basis of the FF is. It's family. But in this case, Reed Richards has gone almost full Dom Toretto.
Yes.
Almost full Dom Toretto. Like, seriously, when we get to the end of the book, I'm like, really? Maybe that's why I put on the Toretto's Garage shirt for the show tonight. Maybe. But I got a kick out of that. I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, and in also, I guess in reference to Star Wars fashion, some would get this reference. There is another.
Right. Exactly.
But also,
and
we get
I was about to say minor spoilers.
Mm-hmm.
The issue that Johnny is having with his flame as a result of ticking off Victor Von Doom is ongoing. It is not resolved in this issue. It is going to be a big part of next issue, actually, if you pay attention like we do to solicitations for upcoming comic books.
Or if you see the end of the in between the main story and the backup story.
Right. But ultimately, that is not going to be solved anytime soon, apparently. It's going to be... it's going to run in a similar vein. It may not be as permanent as the Thing's mutation and transformation, but it's going to run in a similar vein.
Right.
And Ben even figures out that he is going to have to shoulder a lot of the burden of giving Johnny some comfort in that regard, because he has and is still going through something very similar with regards to Stretch not coming up with a solution, or at least a permanent solution.
Right. And yeah, and like you just already said, like, Ben being in the situation before, and Johnny in his own way trying to be the one to shoulder it or help shoulder it with him, Ben kind of puts that out there. So I was like, oh, that's pretty nice. And, again, evokes the whole family thing, they've been at odds before, but it's also been like pretty much like two brothers.
Right. So I mean, we can touch on the two backup stories as well. The one backup story by Jason Liu is just a cool little, 2-pager.
Right.
But
did that one feel like a hostess fruit pie? I don't know if you remember the old Hostess fruit pie commercials. Did it kind of feel like that to you? Like I was almost going to go into that.
A little.
Yeah.
A little. It definitely was reminiscent of that. I didn't even think of that when you mentioned it.
Mm-hmm.
But now that you say it, I look at it, I'm like, oh well, yeah, I kind of get that vibe.
Mm-hmm.
The longer backup story by Mark Waid and Paul Renault and friends is a retelling of the FF's origin, and there are and this is the updated retconned origin.
Yes.
Because it is brought forward due to the rubber band time of Marvel. We're not talking about Reed, Sue, Ben, and Johnny breaking in and stealing a rocket. Reed is basically he's basically paid for this rocket and built it himself thanks to what he's inherited. He's got money thanks to an inheritance, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the one major difference, I think, that we see here is a little bit of in-depth study of the after effects of the emergence of the FF's power, specifically with Johnny.
Right, the psychological part that we never really got with their powers coming in the way they did.
Right.
Well, with the exception of Ben, obviously at times, but but in this case, the whole group.
Right. So it was that was a nice little deviation from this updated. Well, not even a deviation, just a further study of this updated origin. Providing us with more depth to it, and not just this updated retelling just for an anniversary issue. There was, it's not just filler. Mm. There is something, I think, to this backup story.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed. I guess there's one other from going back to the main story real quick before we move on, is like there was near the end touching upon, there was a mention of and what's probably going to be another upcoming arc or beat or something in the FF when the TVA is talking to Reed near the end of that story, because they mention a certain war and not wanting to mess with Reed Richards right before this said war. I think you're muted.
I was going to say, unfortunately, some of us who read comic book solicitations know that is upcoming.
Right.
Sooner rather than later.
Right. So, but it's worth mentioning because we know it's coming one way or another. So, but yeah, otherwise, solid issue all the way around. For an anniversary issue or otherwise.
Definitely.
I guess we want to go into Kang since we're kind of here.
Yeah, we can do this quickly because I think our real issue with this issue, no pun intended, is that it follows somewhat where we thought it might. Mm-hmm. You know, I had guessed that we would see the appearance of a variant of Kang, and we definitely did.
We definitely did. A couple of them.
But in terms of where the story was going, it definitely took a swerve, and we were curious to see how this might play alongside what we saw in the pages of Fantastic Four. But we'll get to that in a second. Mm-hmm. This is the second of a 5-issue limited series. It is written by former guests of the pod, Jackson Lansing and Colin Kelly. The artist on this is Carlos Magno. Colors are by Espen Grundetjern, and letters are by, again, our paisan, VC's Joe Caramagna.
So the basics of this one, because we don't necessarily have to go too far into this. We find that young Nathan, or a young version of Nathan Richards, after Nathaniel, excuse me, you're right. Nathan,
because Nathan Richards might be another variant.
That might be, but I'm also conflating Cable, because
Nathan Summers,
yeah. But Nathaniel, correct, ends up going to ancient Egypt, where he runs across Ramatat, and also runs across a Moon Knight with a very familiar name to his history, without spoiling in that part. But then
that was a surprise.
Yeah, it was. I was like, oh, interesting.
And just hold that thought. That was a surprise, and this is the first kind of crossover with other parts of the Marvel universe.
Yes, that is correct. Because if you're dealing with Egypt in any way, shape, or form, you know. And the Fantastic Four history specifically, you know that, hey, Ramatat was a thing. But what you don't think about readily in that is that there is a hero in the Marvel Universe that we know of, that folks know of, that is about to get his own show called Moon Knight, who worships who did worship, or he was the fist of Khonshu, which was an Egyptian god, who we've talked about relatively recently in Avengers books and whatnot. But yeah, the aspect of the moon shows up in this issue. And again, like I said, whose actual name is familiar to Nathaniel Richards' history as Kang or otherwise. Mm-hmm. Which was an interesting little wrinkle there. And like we said, also we get a couple of variants of Kangs. Like actually, we don't even go into it. That I don't know if this struck you as weird, but the one that we know that deals with, let's say, the Young Avengers,
right?
Like, I thought that one was kind of weird showing up, but I guess it's also an interesting transition into the one that actually does show up.
Right. Well, ultimately, I don't remember what's great and what's bad about time travel is that it's so hard to remember how everything fits together.
Right.
And so what Roddykat is referring to is the Iron Lad persona from Young Avengers. And what we find out, and we don't really see how that fits in with the Young Avengers timeline, but what we find out is that armor has a direct descendant, descendant, as I said, has a direct influence and effect on another variant of Kang, that being Eric the Red, or the Scarlet Centurion.
Yeah.
Not Eric the Red. Eric the Red is another
X-Men.
red-looking dude.
Yeah, that's an X-Men thing. Although an X-Men villain, accomplice, at this point, villain also shows up in the course of this issue, and that being one. I would just call him Apocalypse because I can't remember how his
En Sabah Nur.
Thank you. Shows up because he was also around during this time for a period, and apparently Nathan's going to be dealing with him in the next issue, in a move to exact revenge on Kang, which is his whole motivation.
Go ahead, finish your thought.
I'm done.
I'll just jump in.
I'm done.
So the one advantage, the one good thing that time travel stories are, one of the things I appreciate about time travel stories is that you can do what this issue does, which is bring these elements that have all existed in Marvel's past and would conceptually make sense existing around the same time and actually put them together in a story.
True. And
it's interesting to see, and you really only get that through time travel / flashback stories. So, knowing that this is, that these particular concepts and characters existed concurrently, as opposed to in different periods of time, and you're looking at like carvings in a wall that show there or a stone tablet with etchings in it that show that Rama Tut existed here, and Apocalypse is holding the stone tablet looking at what happened in the past. No, we actually have that these things seem to happen not at the exact same time, but happened in the same general time period.
Indeed. So yeah, we don't know where this whole story is coming. We do know, as Agent 7 said before the show, this is book 2 of 5 in this miniseries.
Right.
So wherever this is leading us, I hope it's something interesting or leading into something else. Because a lot of times they don't. I mean, I would like to believe that there is, outside of the fact that we know that Kang is going to have a presence in the MCU and already has shown itself in Loki, the Loki miniseries. So this could just very well be like, hey, here's this character that's gonna show up a little bit more going forward at various times, and possibly be the big bad. And this is just to catch everybody up on his origin. We don't necessarily know, but that's probably as good a place as any to place this. So it might not go anywhere outside of that, or they might be setting up something else for another event in general. That being said, though, I guess I don't know. Do you want to go rapid fire, or you got another book you want to put out?
No, we can go rapid fire because we've got a decent number of books to go through tonight.
Okay, hit it.
So I will spin that up as soon as I finish this one entry in my list, and we can get this going.
I ain't got time to bleed.
Rapid fire.
Alrighty, so I guess I'll start.
Sure.
I Am Batman #1, written by John Ridley, with art by Olivier Coipel, with colors by Alex Sinclair, and letters by ALW's Troy Pateri. So this is the first formal issue of Jace Fox as the current Batman in Gotham City. And I phrase it that carefully because that is what this new status quo is in the Batman universe, where it is presumed by the general populace in Gotham that the OG Batman is dead. Not the first time, folks, but we know that Bruce Wayne has left Gotham City. He's going to be in the Batman book, but in other parts of the world.
I was about to say, yeah, and leaving again at some point soon.
Right. And what we find is that Jace has decided to take up the mantle, but in his own way. I won't spoil it because I know that Roddykat is trying to keep up with this and mistakenly didn't read this book this week. I'm not so sure, but I guess what's making me hesitant in terms of reading this book is that Jace has a particular attitude about how Batman operates, and the way I see it is that was just a product of how he was written, and where the writing of the character took him from the 80s to the 90s into the 2000s and 10s and beyond. And obviously this Batman is meant to address some of the real life issues that can be addressed as metaphor in comics, but at the same time I'm like, so, or, I don't want to spoil it, because the joke I'd make is something that Roddykat would get after he reads it. So I will save that for after he's read it. Next up is Eternals Thanos Rises #1. It's written by Kieron Gillen with art by Esad Rabich. Colors are by Matthew Wilson and letters are by VC's Clayton Cowell. So this is a one-shot. The Eternals book is returning. It is apparently on some sort of hiatus. Actually, wait, I apologize. Esad Rabich did not do the art on this. It's actually Dustin Weaver. Esad Rabich does the cover. The art on this book is by Dustin Weaver, who is, definitely heavily influenced by Jim Lee, and you can see that in several of his pages. I would say that this book is a retcon, but really much more of an in-depth retelling of the events that lead to the birth of Thanos. I don't say Thanos, it's Thanos. I'm not sure how people said Thanos. I'm pretty sure the Greek people that where the Thanos name comes from don't say Thanos, they say Thanos. Just, I'm harping on that because I keep hearing people call him Thanos. But in any event,
Okay.
yeah, right here I am like harping on it, like, just kind of rubbing it into people. Like, come on, people, just get this right. It's a Euro, damn it. But
That would sound good, real good right about now also. But anyway. Continue.
right. So, as I said, that is the gist of the story. But beyond that, what we get is the rift between Eternals that led to the events that put together the two characters who would together help to give rise to Thanos, to plant the seed, quote unquote, of Thanos. And this is probably going to be fertile ground for the Eternals movie to discover, or to cover, that
Sure.
is, in the past, because this is definitely some retcon stuff going on in here.
So they don't touch on anything in that last arc of Eternals, do they?
No. This is fully a retcon story.
Sure.
This is fully a blast from the past retcon story.
Gotcha.
But what we get is, the events that lead to the rise of Thanos, which is, what the title of the book is. So they are not lying when they say that.
Sure.
It's actually a worthy read for someone who has the barest smattering of an understanding of what the Eternals do.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that this was more so than the regular Eternals book that Kieron Gillen wrote and is writing so far. It was on hiatus, but it's going to come back soon. That was a tough read. It's been a tough read, I admit, but this book was enlightening in a very real sense. So I would actually recommend this to Roddykat and to the readership and listenership and viewership of the Comic Book Chronicles if you want to figure out how we got to Thanos as an Eternal, or a deviant Eternal, as it were.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Cool.
Next up is Iron Man number 12. I know that Roddykat read this. It's written by Christopher Cantwell with art by Angel Unzueta and colors by Frank Darmada and letters by our paisan, VC's Joe Caramagna. Very briefly, Iron Man's team is still on their way to Ta-2, Galactus' world ship. Iron Man and his not as advanced tech partner. What's the character's name? He's Canadian. The Canadian guy.
Yeah, Avro X.
Avrorax?
It says Avro X.
Oh, Avro X. Okay, yeah. Sorry. I don't have the book open in front of me, so Avro X.
Because I never knew this character either. So,
right. Tony and his Canadian counterpart. Listen to me get around that. Tony and his Canadian counterpart make their move through the defenses of Ta-2 and unfortunately run into a Korvax group, and they basically get their and Korvax group basically hands Tony's Tony's little duo's butts to them, and something bad happens to Avro X.
Yeah,
and
not surprising.
Right, and that is the crux of this issue. It is the latest chapter of this of their trip down to Ta-2.
Yeah. Also, the Manitoba Touring Board wrote part of this. Yeah, apparently.
Probably.
So, anyway.
All right. Next up, I think you read this also, Last Annihilation, Wakanda number 1.
Yep.
It's written by Evan Narcisse with art by Herman Peralta, colors by Jesus Abertov, and letters by VC's Corey Pettit. Broad strokes. We finally get caught up on what is going on with the interplanetary kingdom of Wakanda. We catch up with how this plays into the events of the Last Annihilation, because the events of the Last Annihilation are pretty staggering when it comes to the known galaxy, the known powers in the known galaxy of the Marvel Universe. We're talking about the Shi'ar, the Kree, the Skrulls, the Badoon, all et cetera, et cetera. What is their? Jeez, I forgot their name already. What is the race of the aliens in the first Avengers movie?
Oh, the Chitarians.
The Chitauri, right?
Yeah, Chitauri.
Even they have a small role in this, but ultimately, this is a big space-spanning adventure, and we see how the interplanetary kingdom of Wakanda plays into this. What role they have in stemming some of the tide of I won't spoil all of what's happening in this, because we've touched on this here and there. Mm-hmm. But we do know, I can say, it's safe to say that Dormammu's behind this, and there's some magic stuff going on, and the Wakandans have at least some measure have enacted some measure of defenses against the magic with the aid of some mutant metal. And we have just a nice little issue filling in some of the gaps between some of the ongoing crossover issues, some of the ongoing comics that are fulfilling much of the storytelling in these in this Last Annihilation miniseries or crossover series, that is.
Mm-hmm. So
anything to add?
Yes. So I will add that, one, if you are not aware or abreast of what has been going on with the last version of Black Panther, then you would wonder why in the world Wakanda has anything to do with this big spacefaring event going on. Well, that kind of puts them in. So even someone, even us, you would who have actually been reading it, you would kind of be like, well, wait, what does they have to do with it outside of, like, yeah, we know that there is now an intergalactic empire. Well, there was an intergalactic empire of Wakanda, so there basically is like another a space colony of Wakandans out there, and they're relatively big. And this is partially why Sword ends up asking T'Challa and company for help because of that. Because of they have a big presence in space now, and
I would add, just hold that point. I would add that luckily, the first part of the issue does a good job of recapping that.
Yes, that is also true. And it closes in on one of the figures that was a part of T'Challa's adventure in space, which was M'Baku, not the one that we know from Earth, but the one that was born in space, who has come to Earth to find who's been still on Earth after the events of the Black Panther volume, the last Black Panther volume, and kind of in a place. So this is kind of more his issue than T'Challa. Than T'Challa or folks, because he's the one that's leading the mission with some familiar folks. I think the one other thing I was even add in passing is that I think we get a little retcon into the origin of vibranium. Like, we know it was a space. We already knew vibranium was a space rock, but we come to find out here that there's a little bit more to it, or that it might have come out of one of the, or well, either the current or one of the past cosmic cycles that we know that is in the universe, that we know the universe has sprung out of at large. So right. That is something
I was going to say, think of what Galactus survived.
Exactly. And then we get that. So keep on going.
Next up, Marauders number 24. Did you read this?
I did.
This is a weird issue. Written by Jerry Duggan with art by Phil Noto and letters by including colors by Phil Noto and letters by VC's Corey Pettit. So, a small contingent of the cast in Marauders find themselves on Arakko. And they're there because, well, Sebastian Shaw is looking for a place to drink.
Yeah, he was already there. The rest of them just so happened to come along.
Right. And what we find is the rest of the cast of the Marauders make their way to Arakko on a ship, literally a flying saucer.
Yes.
And Emma and Kate strike out to in a different direction because of a spacefarer who has landed on Arakko, asking specifically for Emma Frost, who was originally headed towards Earth, but basically gets shot down by the Peak 2 station that's stationed above Arakko. And Emma and Kate basically deal with this Mr. T wannabe, and
okay, sure. I never thought that one, but I was thinking more like Lando. Kind of a Lando Han Solo-ish kind of situation going on with this.
Yeah, dude. Kinda. I mean, I was looking specifically at the Mohawk.
I wasn't thinking nothing about that, but the way he came off was basically
like a space rogue.
Yeah,
like a roguish person. And now that I see it, you're right. It was more Lando, but I definitely was taken in by the Mohawk. And everything basically looks like it's been settled. Someone's been paid off, but there is a double cross, and you know what Admiral Akbar would say to that. It's a trap.
Yeah, it doesn't go well for some folks in the end.
Right. We get the reappearance at the end of the issue by a character who apparently has never gone away, despite the events of a long ago annual. I think it was. Or a classic X-Men story. I think it was a classic X-Men story.
It was a classic X-Men. Yeah, it was a classic X-Men story that got brought up around the time of probably right before or during the gala. As a backup story that kind of got brought back up, and this person happens to come back up because we kind of figured they would, because they got brought up.
And I'll end by saying that it's always interesting to see how affectionate these former Hellfire Club people are with Mr. Peepers.
Yeah, right. Because first it was Magneto,
or these villain types,
right, in an early issue of I think it was Sword. Yeah, it probably was Sword. First it was Magneto, now it's Emma, and it was like, oh, what the heck is Peepers got up? Mr. Peepers got going on the way he's got such a
he's so popular.
yeah with folks. So it's like that was kind of funny when I got that part. I'm like, all right, whatever, Peepers, go ahead, get yours. But
they're just so happy to see him. It's kind of weird.
Like I almost expected like Fabian to come around, but like, really, not you too. But I think he's kind of in another place at this point, so it was like, But also, you could also. Oh, this was the point I was going to make. It was like not only there was the figure that Emma and Kate run into is kind of a Lando Solo-ish type situation, but the area they're in, you might as well say could be Mos Eisley. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that part was kind of funny. That synergy just going a long way at this point. You gotta love it. But anywho.
Yeah. That is an excellent point. All right. Next, The Mighty Valkyries, number 5. This is the last of this 5-issue limited series. It's written by Jason Aaron and Torunn Grønbekk. It's not Grombel. That is a typo on my part in my notes. I am going to fix that right now. That is a fat finger typo, folks. The art is by Mattia De Ulis, and letters are by VC's Joe Sabino. So, all's well that ends well in this mini-series that introduced the, I guess, closest adaptation to the Valkyrie character that's in the MCU and bringing that character to the 616 Marvel Universe. We have some interesting goings on in Hell, but and a fight for the crown or the throne of Hell between Fafnir the dragon, Hela, and whatever is happening to Carnilla. That there's some stuff going on that I was not made aware of prior to this issue or prior to this series, that is. So I need to do a little bit of research to figure out how all that stuff fits together. Ultimately, we have some very loose playing around with Norse mythology, and that's the stock and trade of the Thor books and Thor related books. So in that sense, it's a pretty solid book. We also find out at the end of this that Jane Foster's Valkyrie may be joining the Avengers in Avengers number 750 on sale in 2 months in November. So,
Oh, nice.
Yep. So, the old order changeth, as the saying goes in Avengers.
Well done.
Last but not least, is X-Men: The Trial of Magneto, number 2 of 5. So we pick right where we left off in the last issue, where we find out that not everything is as it seems in the death of the Scarlet Witch. That's not that big a spoiler, but at this point, there are some serious things going on Krakoa. The first being Professor Xavier and Hope Summers actually invading the privacy of Magneto's mind, trying to get him to confess. Confess, damn it. Meanwhile, I'm reminded actually here that the Hellfire Gala did not take place on Krakoa, but on a nearby, maybe not a close by island, but
was close enough. Yeah,
exactly, close enough, where they are basically taking the very first official guests to Krakoa, that being a team of Avengers looking to collect the remains of one Wanda Maximoff, aka the Scarlet Witch. And during the course of the tour, we find that the X-Men cleverly disguise their rebirth chambers, as it were.
Yes.
And we also see that not everything, as I said, is as it seems, because Magneto apparently looks to confront the Avengers and seemingly confesses, but again, not all is as it seems, because we get to the end of the issue after some fisticuffs, because it is a comic book under the auspices of Marvel after all, that a certain character reappears as if nothing has happened and seeks to rekindle a relationship that we had thought long gone.
Yes.
So, or long past.
Yes.
So
well,
ultimately,
they've let's say they've been at least cordial at various times where they've been around each other, but yeah, definitely not back to this point. To what we see at the end of this issue. But also,
right.
I don't think you said the creative team.
Oh, I apologize. It's written by Leah Williams with art by Lucas Werneck. Colors are by Edgar Delgado, and letters are by VC's Clayton Cowles. I think I was just so amped up to get into the hijinks of the issue. Anything to add?
Yeah, because like you said before the show, like this was kind of a weird issue at the end. I'm like, because as you said, like first this big fight happens, and then Magneto's like, "Oh, I give up. I did it. This is a thing." And then what we come to find out at the end of the issue is what it is. So that part right there was kind of a head scratcher. Like, well, first you wanted them off the island, and then you go into this big fight. And then you basically confess and try to turn yourselves over to them. Like, what's all that about?
Right.
So yeah, there's still a little bit more going on in this miniseries that I guess we'll find out hopefully. Like how this character comes back for instance, because that's the main thing I want to know.
Yeah.
That's not in the way that we know that this character could come back. But doubtful that it was the case. Who did it in the first place and why? There are still questions up in the air about this whole thing and why did that last part happen the way it did? I guess, or that part, but why did the Magneto part happen the way it did? Also, because apparently maybe he knows something or something. We don't even know. But regardless, we'll find out. I hope.
Yep, and that's it for me.
All right, so going on to mine then. Boop. Where are we? Batman 89 number 2. Let's see. Writer Sam Hamm. Art by Joe Quinones. Colors by Leonardo Ito, which weirdly reminds me of Quick Kick from G.I. Joe. And letters by Clayton Cowles. Someone will get why I said that. Why that reference. But anyway.
I thought you were going to reference OJ, but anyway.
Oh no. No.
That's Ito. That's the Ito I think of.
Oh no, I honestly didn't even think about that. No, the Judge. No, I didn't. I totally didn't. No, and that's only because I've been watching a lot of G.I. Joe lately on YouTube. So that's probably
got it.
Quickly, but at any rate, so Batman 89 number 2 takes place after it takes place in the world of Batman 89 the movie, after the events of the movie, and I think you might have to do it. So this one's kind of weird because there are people who show up here, like I said the last time we talked about this, who didn't show up in the movie but shows up here in way, shapes, and forms. So there's basically taking the world of the movie and fitting it more into the DC landscape, because you see some stuff that is more familiar to Batman readers, such as a certain giant penny. We find out where the Harvey Dent of this world is from and the neighborhood that he's from. Right. And his relationship with a certain commissioner's daughter, which, granted, that's not, which is, again, like I said, nothing that happens in the movies. And nor was there even any hint for it. But I think this issue, now that I think about it, this issue kind of goes away to mention why that is in a way. And I guess it kind of makes sense given So, and there's also some real world allegories that kind of show up here, kind of in the form of certain things that people do in riots, certain phrases that were definitely not around back in in the '89 that show up here, like code switching shows up. It was like, that's kind of weird. Like we've talked about this at times during the show where certain language that is used now get written into books in time periods that they would never they would have never been originally in, and sometimes that's kind of grating. And this one's kind of, it's like, yeah, it's a little weird about that, but
I was going to say maybe not grating, but definitely
it's kind of grating to me.
No, what I was going to say, well, it may be grating to Roddykat. What it does do, I think, in general, for most readers, is that it stops people. It suspends the suspension of disbelief.
Yeah.
And it takes you out of the story because you're like, wait a second, they didn't say that in the 60s.
Exactly.
And in this case, they didn't say that in 89.
Exactly. So that being the case, it kind of was like, all right, yeah. But yeah, like I said, there's some stuff that there's some current day allegories in this that are showing up in here, and I'm not saying it's bad, but but I can see some people kind of getting put off by it, but also the people that would get put off by it are probably people who are not great people who would be against it now, like in real life, because they're stupid and they're not great people. But that's beside the point. But in this case, like I said, we get definitely a little bit of different of a Bruce Wayne in this one, because there have been people who were like, you know what, Bruce should do this instead of this, and in this particular story, he kind of tries to do some of that. So, again, stuff that had never been shown up in any of the movies, or any of the earlier movies, or actually any of the movies probably in that point. And also, we also get another character who doesn't. Like, I'm not entirely sure what the time frame is after the first issue is, but I'm almost fairly certain that the character that shows up near the end of this book is a character doesn't show up until the next movie in the series.
Okay.
But would have been introduced and pretty much born in the next movie. But the character as they are, when it shows up here, is already fully, or pretty much as they are. So that's kind of weird also. So I don't know if they're definitely messing with the time frame between the two movies or what's going on there. Like, it's kind of weird. But anyway, like I said, it's still a kind of sort of interesting read, that being the case. But the fact that they're playing around in the world of the movies is interesting in itself. But some of the things they're doing might be a little bit off-putting or a little different than what you would think for trying to keep into that world. Anyway, next book, Titans United #1, written by Kevin Scott, pencils by Jose Luis, inks by Jonas Trindade. Sure, we'll go with that. I'm sorry if I butchered your name. Colors by Rex Locus. Letters by Carlos M. Mangual. So apparently the team ends up fighting this person who ends up having all of their powers, but he starts off like Cyclops before any of them shows up, which is kind of strange considering, like, so they end up figuring out they're fighting their own powers. Even in the end of this issue, they still haven't figured out what caused that before being called by Hawk and Dove to take care of another, let's say, lesser DC villain. Maybe a third string villain that's giving them issues because of a possible seeming power upgrade. But that's where this is going. I'm not sure what time frame this is supposed to be set in, but the team of Titans that's presented here looks like a mix of a couple of different versions of Titans. Because you got like Superboy in here, and you also got like Red Hood, who I don't think was been a Titan that I know of. But also you have the core Titans in attendance also as they're doing this. I believe this is one of 5. I'm not actually sure how many issues this is. I'll have to look that up. But while I go on, I'll look that up. Let's see. What's next? Eels. Spider-Woman, number 15. Written by Carla Pacheco. Art by Perry Perez. Color artist Frank Darmada. And letters by VC's Clayton Cowles. This one is a potential click of the week, just like the Fantastic Four issue is. I don't know if Agent 70 plans on reading this or not.
I am on and off this book.
Right.
I don't know if I'm so keen on this whole like extended family thing that they're trying to establish. Mm-hmm. I may have to go back and reread it.
Well, you may or may not want to. You may want to check this out because we do get a little bit of backstory about a certain member of this extended family while this issue is going on. We also get a Doogie Howser reference, which I don't know anybody who would get that outside of people of a certain vintage, and outside of the fact that there is a new Doogie Howser on Disney Plus right now, which
right. What I was going to say is, it's probably in the. It's not exactly the zeitgeist, but I would say that I think a reference to it wouldn't be so foreign now.
Right. Yeah, especially since there is another version of that right now in Disney Plus. But outside of that, like I said, the crux of the issue is kind of coming off of last issue. We get the backstory about the certain character and possibly a little bit on the machinations of the new character that was introduced last issue that is, as I think I said then, a thorn in Jessica's side, who also has similar powers to her, thanks to another family member. Well, thanks to her manipulating another family member of Jess's. So there is that. Next up is W.E.B. Of Spider-Man number 5. This is the last issue of this miniseries. Written by Kevin Shinick. Art by Alberto Albuquerque. Color artist Rachelle Rosenberg. Letters by VC's Joe Sabino. So if you didn't know about this book, this was a miniseries based off of an amusement park ride that I think is an attraction at the very least that is out or is already out. I don't know what's going on with that thing because I don't know. I don't know what's going on in the outside world. But regardless, WB is this, I believe, the World Engineering Brigade or something like that. And it's a bunch of the smartest people in the Marvel Universe that have gotten together as a little think tank. So you got Peter Parker, you got Lunella Lafayette, Anome from Wakanda, you got Harley from Iron Man 3. Squirrel Girl also is in this. But then they come across Amadeus Cho in the last issue. And the big bad of this issue, of this series, has been revealed, who is basically a fake Mendel Strom with a very terrible name. But regardless, it doesn't matter because this group ends up saving the day and potentially getting into the Hall of Heroes, which is something that got brought up in this issue. But also, there was a weird thing that happened near the end of this thing. It was like so they were in Paris and they were at the Louvre, and this Hall of Heroes is a new exhibit, and they had a picture of the original, what seems to be the original Avengers. However, the original Avengers lineup was missing a couple of people and had Black Widow in place of at least one of them. So I'm sitting here like, I don't know where this Avengers came from, but that is definitely not this is the original Avengers that we know of.
Right.
So, So that one was kind of weird to me, but it is what it is. There was also seemingly a lettering typo on one of the pages, but it's kind of that thing. It happens, folks. Next up, and last for me, Time Before Time number 5, which is I believe an IDW book. As I bring that up real quick to make sure if that's the case. Image, excuse me, it's an Image book. My apologies. And it is written by Declan Shalvey with Rory McInville, art by Joe Palmer, colors by Chris O'Halloran, letters by Hassan Atsmane Alao. Excuse me. And I've talked about this book in the past. There's some timey-wiminess going on here. There's definitely a time travel book. So if you like that kind of stuff, this might be of interest to you. But basically, after the events of last issue, Tatsuo, the main character, was sent on a mission, and his I can't really call her a traveling partner because she kind of stowed away and started a lot of this trouble in herself, was being held captive in another time while he's been sent to a different time. But she plots her escape, and ends up causing a little more trouble for them at the end of this book, which is going to probably come to bear. But Tatsuo kind of ends up with an old, younger acquaintance of his through some time shenanigans, and ends up making a switch that helps them out more than hurts the situation. What is it going to do to this other person? We don't know, because time, and I guess we'll find out. So there's that, and that, folks, is the end of the books for me. Clicks of the week.
Alrighty, clicks of the week.
Actually, we don't have anything from our absent co-hosts because...
Yep, they are not keeping up, folks.
Yeah, basically. So...
They're not keeping up. So between the two remaining co-hosts that are here, I think my candidates are probably one that I think Roddykat and I have in common, and one that's a bit of a surprise.
Uh-oh.
Fantastic Four number 35 is just a quality read all the way around.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one, surprisingly, is that Eternals Thanos Rises number 1.
Okay. Interesting.
I'm still considering. What about you?
I'm thinking, so the candidates for me is definitely that Fantastic Four number 35. Last Annihilation of Wakanda was actually pretty good, personally. Spider-Woman also pretty good, but I think I'm actually going to go with Fantastic Four number 35. Because like you said, it was a pretty great issue all around. So, whenever you get yours, oops. Oh, I filled that in. I definitely want to check out that I Am Batman, though, because, I've been pretty much keeping up on that part of that, and I don't know how I missed that this week. Although there were a couple of, I guess while Agent 70 is making up his mind, I can safely say that Batman Day is coming up, I believe, and there are a couple of Batman Day books that are out. So there's a couple of different Batman books for folks who like Batman, for your perusal. Also, I think we talked about this last week, in that Marvel Unlimited has some Infinity comics that they started putting out, and I don't know if Agent 70 has read any of them, but a couple of them are actually kind of good.
Yeah, I read the X-Men book.
Yeah, same.
But I'm behind. I don't think I touched it since this previous weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they come out on a weekly basis.
I believe so. Yeah, because I know something got a new issue recently. I can't remember if it was the X-Men one or not. Wanted to read that Shang-Chi one also, but I didn't get a chance to.
Oh, I was about to say the Shang-Chi one is like a complete 4-issue thing.
Oh, is it?
They're all there, yeah.
Huh.
It's like a complete 4-issue little miniseries. So,
Okay.
they have the whole story online. The other ones are coming out, I believe, on a weekly basis.
Right.
So I think I'm going to go with Fantastic Four number 35 as well. No good! No good! Suck it, Washington!
He is not obviously talking about Fantastic Four. He is talking about the football
Oh, they
team.
called a flag! Are you kidding me?
I am not editing this out.
Oh my gosh! Are you kidding me?
And if my apologies to, well, no, he should be the one apologizing to your ears for that outburst. But
You gotta be kidding me!
all right, so we're gonna go swiftly into the news section. So how about revving up?
Oh, they're killing me!
So how about let's rev up an ad read, please?
Blue Apron's meal delivery service. Fresh ingredients, incredible recipes delivered weekly to your door. Skip the grocery store and make incredible meals at home with Blue Apron. Always ship free right to your home. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can get $30 off your first Blue Apron order. To place your first order with $30 off and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us. That's cspn.us. Then click on the Keep Our Podcast. Damn it!
Focus. I'm gonna need you to focus.
Click on the Keep Our Podcast free link at the top of the page. Daniel Jones sucks! At the top of the page. From there, scroll down to the Blue Apron link and sign up for your first order. Blue Apron through cspn.us. Do it today. Daniel Jones, you suck. Jason Garrett, you suck.
And this is
Joe Judge, you can't manage a clock for anything.
And this is why we don't watch things while we're recording a podcast. So let's go to the
So we are multitasking tonight. We are watching
not well
Thursday night football, and I was multitasking right up until the end of this stupid game. Are you kidding me? Oh,
all right. Cinematic news.
You're kidding me with this. Kidding me with this. Go ahead.
I was waiting for the stinger, but okay.
Cinematic news.
I repeat, I'm cutting none of this out. Star Trek Picard Season 2 trailer.
No need to. No need to cut anything.
Features time travel.
And it's not the first time it's happened either.
No, it is not. And it's not the first time I've said I wasn't going to cut it out either. But anyway, as a part of Star Trek Days, Paramount Plus has released a new trailer for the second season of Star Trek Picard, which features a lot of faces that should be familiar to Star Trek fans. The trailer begins with Jean-Luc Picard back and forth. You know what? I'm not going to go through all of this, but basically, hey, Q shows up, folks. An older-looking Q, but then again, I'm sure they will explain that some kind of way. And there's a trailer that you can watch if you haven't already, because this news has been out for a good minute. So, next.
The new Warriors showrunner reveals Squirrel Girl pictures and says the Marvel show is, quote, too gay for a TV executive. Beagle, this is new Warriors showrunner Kevin Beagle reveals behind-the-scenes content from the canceled Marvel show and sheds some light on what happened to it. Update to the story is that Beagle has seemingly deleted his tweets, joking that he let Ryan Reynolds take over his Twitter for a night. You can read this article as it originally appeared. So Beagle revealed a slew of behind-the-scenes content from the canceled Marvel TV show, including our very first look at Milana Weintraub in costume as the unbeatable Marvel Comics superhero Squirrel Girl. He then penned a longer post explaining there's a show we wrote a few years ago. It was very proudly gay, a singular power that B killed the show because it was too gay, a rich, straight Brentwood turd. Okay. He got fired for being vile at his company. We, on the other hand, live #New Warriors. Okay.
Yes, and if you're watching the video, you can see the pictures of Milana Weintraub, aka the AT&T girl, in costume. Yes. Next up, Hawkeye trailer sets unique. Wait. Yes, right. Yes. Hawkeye trailer sets unique tone for Marvel series. So yes, folks, there was a trailer for the upcoming Hawkeye series that apparently Jeremy Renner did say was coming at some point. And sure, it showed up Thursday, I believe. Not Thursday. I'm sorry. Monday morning. And yes, it is taking up after the superb Matt Fraction, David Aja run that we figured it was going to, and also introduce Kate Bishop into the Marvel Cinematic U. So if you haven't seen that by now, there's also people speculating that the Kingpin is possibly due to show up in this, and possibly what's his face's version of it, whose name is now escaping me. I don't know why.
Vince D'Onofrio.
Yes, Vincent
Private
D'Onofrio.
File.
Yes, exactly. But there is no. There's no
R. Lee Ermey because he has since passed away. Rest in peace.
Well, there is also that, but there's also no. There's nothing saying that outside of the fact that a character that we know is showing up, Echo, was apparently trained by the.
The MCU's done a lot.
Sorry about that.
Okay, that was trained by the.
I opened up the next story. Yeah, I opened up the next story
Yeah.
for Reese's.
Yeah, but so there is that, and November 24th, we will, I'm sure, find out what the deal is. There's definitely some stuff, if you've read that Fraction Aha run of Hawkeye, some things in the trailer definitely show themselves apparent. Like, I don't know, did you see the trailer? You watched the trailer?
Of course. It was a lot of fun. I thought that... I don't know if it would make people who just don't care for Hawkeye care more, or if they would just care about the story because they're introducing a new character who seems to be another Hawkeye.
Mm-hmm.
You know, especially for movie fans, people who are movie fans only.
Yeah, some would argue a better Hawkeye.
But what's that?
Some have argued a better Hawkeye because of the MCU version of Hawkeye, but.
Right, but what I would say is, you know, I have a soft spot for this comic book run anyway, so I'm already a mark. I'm sold on this. So, you know, just seeing the two together and have this be the introduction of Kate Bishop, hey, I'm okay with that.
And the fact that they're taking beats from the run and a couple of different actual beats from the comic book run is great. I actually feel like I might reread that run.
Yeah, I think that's a worthwhile endeavor.
Yeah, because I have the omnibus, but also all the issues, so it's gonna be great. Also, if you speaking of which, if you happen to check out the show notes in the clickbait section, there are a couple of articles that have something to do with said Hawkeye show in one way or the other, including something that a couple of things that showed up in the trailer. So definitely go check that out if you are so inclined. Next up. Here we go. Stop.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to play. So that's why I'm just going to read our notes. WandaVision won 3 Creative Arts Emmys during this past weekend. Outstanding original music and lyrics for Agatha all along, and outstanding fantasy sci-fi costumes, filmed before a live studio audience, and outstanding production design for a narrative program half hour. That's pretty cool. Good for them.
Yeah, indeed. And, you know, Agatha all along was a bop, so it deserved a win. Mm-hmm. Shazam's Zachary Levi discusses Marvel's Thor 2 Broken Promise. Apparently, well, so folks may know Zachary Levi, before he got the role of Shazam, was in the Thor movies as one of the Warriors 3. Didn't live that long after didn't live that long in the MCU, much less, you know, Well, actually, that was Ragnarok where they got all taken out. But apparently, Zachary Levi was saying that he enjoyed his. He said working on Thor was his dream come true. Grew up devouring Marvel comic books. He was definitely a Marvel kid, but he's playing Shazam, so yeah, sure. So it was cool. I was very grateful that I got to be a part of that. It says he had to pass on playing Fandral in 2011's Thor due to commitment to Chuck. He assumed the world for The Dark World when the original actor Josh Dallas bowed out due to his own commitments to Once Upon a Time. To be honest, I had seen the first Thor and didn't really feel like the Warriors 3 were used all that well. So I was like, hey, are you going to actually use these folks? And they said, oh yeah, we're going to use them a lot in Thor: The Dark World. They kind of didn't. So Zachary Levi signed up for it, and apparently that didn't happen, and they ended up getting killed in Ragnarok. So yeah. So he was just kind of recounting that whole thing. But he's got Shazam now, so it doesn't matter. Next up.
Here's a report that a Marvel Zombies live-action project may actually be in development. So, thanks to the Marvel Studios Disney Plus series What If, there is renewed interest in Marvel Zombies, and according to Mark Miller, a live-action project may also be in the works. In Miller's newsletter, some people say Millar, but it's actually pronounced Miller.
Yeah,
the writer discussed Marvel Zombies on the heels of the latest What If episode, footnoting an anecdote about the original story by writing, if his sources are correct, a little live-action Marvel Zombies is further down the line, but you never heard that from him. He's not one to gossip, but you ain't heard it from him.
Exactly. Not like this.
All right.
It's not right there in his newsletter, but sure. Netflix's Tomb Raider anime taps Captain Carter's Haley Atwell. Okay, she's Peggy Carter. You didn't have to, but still, one way or the other, it works out as Lara Croft. Carter will meet Croft in the upcoming Tomb Raider anime series. Ha ha ha. Netflix and Legendary Television, the TV branch of the movie studio Legendary Pictures, have announced that Haley Atwell has been cast as the voice of the spelunking adventurer Lara Croft in their upcoming anime adaptation of Tomb Raider. The new series will be written and executive produced by Tasha Hugh. I'm not sure if that's how I pronounce her name, so I apologize. Who also worked on Netflix's The Witcher Blood Origin. DJ2 Entertainment founder and CEO Dimitri M. Johnson, who previously worked on the movie adaptation of Sonic the Hedgehog, and some other people. So, story details about the new Tomb Raider series are scant, but the official synopsis reveals that it will continue the continuity last seen in 2018's video game Shadow of the Tomb Raider. So, okay, so I guess it's newer, younger, Lara. Cool. Next.
Anthony Mackie. Who do you know him as?
Sam Wilson.
The rest of us remember him as Clarence from 8 Mile. Roddykat hasn't watched that movie, so he doesn't have the reference.
Well, honestly, if you were thinking about it that way, I can't remember his character's name, but whatever his character's name was from He Hate Me.
Oh, I don't remember that either.
Yeah, that was his. I think that was one of his first roles. Might have been his breakout role.
That's a good one. We'll have to check that after the show. But in this news, Anthony Mackie's going to star in PlayStation's upcoming live-action adaptation with the video games of Twisted Metal, playing the amnesiac John Doe. As reported by Deadline, Mackie will lead in the latest video game adaptation from PlayStation products. With the lead star on board, PlayStation is now planning to shop the series to potential buyers. Okay.
No one asked for a Twisted Metal series. Don't know why we're getting it, but here we are, folks. If folks don't know, Twisted Metal was basically a car combat game. Series, and I don't know. Sure. Next up. Matt Wagner's classic assassin Grendel nabs his own live-action Netflix series. According to Deadline, according to this article, Netflix has ordered an 8-episode series based on Matt Wagner's Dark Horse Comics titled Grendel. Now, according to Deadline, Katie Keen's Abubakar Ali will play the eponymous anti-hero Hunter Rose, a.k.a. Grendel, and is joined by Jamie Ray. I'm going to assume that's Jamie Ray Newman as Jocasta Rose, Julian Black Antelope as Argent, Madeline Zima as Liz Sparks, Kevin Corrigan as Barry Palumbo, Emma Ho as Stacy Palumbo, Eric Palladino as Teddy Cicerone, Brittany Allen as Annabelle Wright, and Andy Mientus, as Larry Stoller. Andrew Dabb is showrunner, writer, and executive producer, with Mike Richardson, Keith Goldberg, and Chris Tung serving as EPs. So if you know or even remember Grendel at this point, I guess this is for you. Next up, in some sad news, Star Wars voice actor Tom Kane has had to retire after suffering a debilitating stroke in late 2020. The official Wikipedia Twitter account shared the news over this past weekend, by resharing a post from Kane's family. Let's see. So the damage to his speech center is just too severe. That's very, very sad. Let's see. The prolific voice actor's family first announced he had a stroke in December. I'm just looking for some of the... Kane is probably best known for providing the voice of Yoda in Star Wars The Clone Wars and in several other Star Wars productions. He was also known as a recurring voice for Admiral Akbar. It's a trap! Outside of the Star Wars universe, Kane contributed to cartoons including the Powerpuff Girls, Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, etc., etc. Okay. Yeah, that's some sad news. Yeah, I believe he was also the narrator of the Clone Wars series also. So, yeah. Next up, a live-action Shira series is in development at Amazon. Amazon Studios is developing a live-action series based on Shira. The project is in early development, and DreamWorks Animation it will serve as the executive producer on the series. They recently produced the Netflix animated series Shira and the Princess of Power. It is explained that this live-action version of Shira will be "quote-unquote" a new standalone story and will not be connected to the animated show. And this article postulates that they think that that makes sense because of the different differences in production for the different shows. So there you go. I don't think we don't have a date for it. We just know that it's going to be a thing. Next.
Alrighty, Warner Brothers Animation's Batwheels is making a major change to the Batman status quo. As revealed in the new Batwheels casting announcement, Duke Thomas, a once code-nameless superhero who eventually became known as The Signal, has been promoted to Robin for the animated series. Voiced by A.J. Hudson, he's described as the boy wonder who loves sinking his teeth into a great detective mystery while he strives to prove himself alongside Batman. Okay.
Yes. Funimation returns to New York Comic Con with My Hero Academia Demon Slayer events. New York Comic Con will host Funimation's Sakura Park, a fully decorated, and I know somebody's gonna talk about my pronunciation of Sakura, but shush. A fully decorated.
What is it supposed to be? Is it supposed to be Sakura?
Sakura, yeah. A fully decorated anime sanctuary for con goers to enjoy. According to Funimation, the park will feature aesthetic backdrops, ideal for photo opportunities, and will be decorated with faux cherry blossom trees. And some other stuff, food trucks, and some other stuff. Hopefully, if Agent 70, well, Agent 70 is going to New York Comic Con, so hopefully we
Yes,
get some
I only
pictures.
have because of the COVID restrictions and the lesser capacity. I was only able to get Sunday ticket. So ultimately, I'll just be there on Sunday, which kind of sucks, but hopefully, I'll be able to make the most of it, and I'll be sure to try to get to. I'll be sure to try to get to this Funimation event because I am a Funimation subscriber.
And funny you should mention that because the Funimation will host a subscriber-only party several blocks away from the convention at the Press Lounge on October 7th, which will feature anime-themed drinks, photo booths, and other activities.
That sucks. It's not going to be on Sunday, obviously.
Yeah. The party will be free to all Funimation subscribers, though attendees will have to, via RSVP in advance, be 21 years of age of older, obviously, and show their Comic-Con badge, proof of their Funimation subscription, and proof that they have been fully vaccinated against COVID-19.
Right. I mean, I could show up on that Thursday. The 7th is a Thursday.
Right.
So I could show up for the party, but I wouldn't be able to go into the con itself.
Right. So yeah, but there's going to be other stuff like the aforementioned. There's a My Hero Academia panel and a Demon Slayer. Oh, they're going to be screening the Demon Slayer movie.
Oh, Mugen Train?
Yeah.
I watched it already.
Yeah. Well,
show me the My Hero Academia. Man, I hate. Shout out to Van Lathan of the Ringerverse who continuously calls it like My Hero Macadamia Nut or something like that. So I keep wanting to say it that way, but what I was gonna mention is still can't find any way, legitimate or otherwise, to watch the recent My Hero Academia movie that was just released at August?
That sounds right.
Yeah. In August, so still looking for a way to watch that.
And I still haven't seen the first season, much less that, so I'm still behind. But apparently,
the first season of Demon Slayer. I got you.
So, so it says here that two things. That's going to be a Saturday screening for the Demon for Mugen Train, and it looks like there is going to be another panel for the highly anticipated World Heroes Mission movie, which they're going to release in the States and Canada in theaters on October 29th.
Right, that's on Friday. They're going to have a panel.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to have the English cast. I don't need the English cast. No offense.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that one, but no offense to them because I'm sure they're good. Anyway, that's that, folks. So if you're around up in those parts during New York Comic Con and you're Funimation and you're fully vaxxed and are a Funimation subscriber, have at it.
Right. You can also watch the videos and live streams through Comic Con week on social media.
That is also true.
And on the official YouTube channel for Funimation.
Yep. Next up.
Okay. I will get to what's next up. Oh, this is interesting because I am still in the midst of my binge of Cowboy Bebop. It is slow going.
Okay.
I can't explain why it's so slow to me, but it is just slow going. Actor Daniela Pineda.
I have a theory on that, but we'll talk about that later.
Actor Daniela Pineda is taking on one of the most iconic characters in anime with her role as Faye Valentine in Netflix's live-action adaptation maybe, of Cowboy Bebop. She knows that she doesn't look exactly like Faye, and she has very good reasons for not caring. Okay.
I love the energy she put behind this.
What's that?
I love the energy she put behind this.
All right, in a story on her Instagram, Pineda responded to criticisms about her casting in the show and the costume she wears that followed the Cowboy Bebop first look images. In the video, which has since gone viral, she explained, "I just wanted to address a couple of things that sort of keep coming up in the comments amongst fans." They went on to make it clear that the reason she isn't a perfect match for Faye's body type is because the animated character's proportions don't exist in reality. I beg to differ. I think surgery can help with that. But, But in all seriousness, folks, I said that firmly, planting my tongue firmly in cheek. We don't want to have you undergo unnecessary surgeries just to look like a cartoon character, because we know there are people out there who do that, and that is just not mentally right.
Slightly ridiculous.
What's that?
Slightly ridiculous, and some would say.
Right. So ultimately, she also says that the outfit is not exactly what's in the anime because, they tried doing the stunts in it, but, the clothes just didn't stack up. So.
Yeah, she put a hefty amount of snark in that, and you should definitely check it out. It was pretty good. There was definitely some Faye Valentine energy in that post, so you should definitely check it out if you are so inclined. Mad Max Furiosa release date gets delayed until 2024. So yeah, they are doing that Mad Max spinoff on Furiosa. It's going to be delayed from June 23rd, 2023 to May 24th, 2024. Warner Brothers announced this news and did not give any specific reason for the delay, but likely due to usual scheduling conflicts as well as issues, due to COVID, according to this article. So there you go. Next.
Oh, last but not least, No Time to Die video introduces James Bond's new ally agents. There are going to be 2 fresh recruits joining the fight in No Time to Die. The short video, weaving interviews with scenes from the film and clips of the actors' backstage training, announces agents Nomi and Paloma. Portrayed respectively by Lashana Lynch and Ana de Armas, the duo comprises 007's cavalry in the upcoming espionage thriller, and the castmates provide perspective about their distinction as the, quote, new agents, unquote, in Bond's echelon. Okay.
Yeah. Which, if you saw that that last Bond, the No Time to Die trailer, yeah, that is pretty much put out there as such in very little certain way. So now we move on to the comic book news. Avatar Legends RPG Kickstarter campaign rakes in over 9.5 million. Magpie Games' Avatar Legends, the role-playing game core book, wrapped up its Kickstarter run on September 1st, raising a total of 9.5 and some numbers $1 million, with 81,567 backers at a certain price per backer. So, they're going to be delivered in February of 2022, apparently. And the campaign is accepting like pledges if you still want to get into it. But the printed core books will only be available to retailers through distribution. I guess when it finally comes out. So, cool. Next.
All right, so this week in toy news, spooky season apparently started early. Spooky Spider-Man, spooky Transformers, and action figures showing a bit more than just skin. Okay. Right, so there's a roundup here in this article of all the toy news that dropped. There's a bunch here. A robotic bat named Draculus that transforms into a robotic version of Dracula, really?
Yeah, it's actually a Transformers. It's one of those Transformers crossovers.
Okay.
Although they do have a Transformer named Ratbat who kind of is that anyway, so I'm not sure why the particular Dracula theme, but hey, go for it. But it's called Draculus. Right.
Also, for those about to rock, fire! We salute you. Shout out to AC/DC.
Yes.
This is pretty cool. This Lego Ideas Fender Stratocaster that you see up on your screen now. You should. I don't know if Roddykat has to scroll up to it.
I got it.
I'll scroll down to it. Right there it is. And that's pretty cool. It's actually pretty expensive at $100.
Mm-hmm.
But it must be a decent size for that amount of money.
I would hope so.
Yeah. Hasbro Nerf Mega XL Dart Blasters are next. Lego DC Batman Batmobile Tumbler Scarecrow Showdown. Apparently that is from Batman Begins. Next up is something I already pre-ordered, the Marvel Legends Symbiote Spider-Man. This is based off of the retro Spider-Man body that we got last year, and they put the symbiote Spider-Man paint job on it, and I pre-ordered mine. The rest of the wave is on the retro card backing, and included are a Hobgoblin, a Ben Reilly, a redone Hammerhead, which is something that I'm considering getting, a redone Shocker. I'm kind of on the fence about that one, and I'm trying to remember if there's somebody I'm missing. There's definitely someone I'm missing, but ultimately, it's always cool to be able to pick and choose the ones that you don't necessarily need, as opposed to having to get an entire wave. But yeah, I definitely pre-ordered this symbiote Spider-Man. So this Good Smile Company Figma human anatomical model made me think of Attack on Titan.
Yes.
Because it just did.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, there's a Star Wars The Black Series Rey Skywalker Force FX lightsaber, complete with yellow blade, and a whole bunch of other stuff that I'm not. Oh, actually, it's not a whole bunch of other stuff. Just a couple of more things. Some wooden Lego home accessories and a Lego Santa's visit.
Yep. Yeah, that's pretty much that. Yeah. And I know I put in something about that symbiote Spider-Man, and then the pictures that I showed was from that article, but we don't have to talk about that when we get to that point. Star Wars Knights of the Republic's Bastilla voice actor returns for the remake. So yeah, there's was a recent PlayStation State of Play. I don't know what they call that thing, where they showcase some new games that are coming back. So this next couple of next few articles are about that. In fact, I'm going to take all of these because I know Agent 70 is not really big into the video games. So it says here that they can confirm that Jennifer Hale is reprising her role of Bastilla Shan, I believe, from the original KOTOR. Is it Bastilla Shan? I can't remember. Yeah, Bastilla Shan. I was right. Hey, I remember. While Bastilla was an essential member of the player's party in the original KOTOR, the Ebonhawk spaceship hosted a large cast of teammates. And Treadwell suggested, Ryan Treadwell from Aspire Media suggested that the return of the more old favorites. I do think you're going to see some other familiar voices return, but that's probably as we're going to get on that right now. The fact that Jennifer Hale, some folks would know her from pretty much every other thing she has voiced ever. She has voiced some childhoods, definitely. Is good news that she's back for this remake. Star Wars Hunters trailer brings chaos off from all over the galaxy. So this is a trailer for this new free-to-play multiplayer game set in the Star Wars universe. There was a trailer for it, and this thing was originally announced during February 2021 Nintendo Direct. But it's going to, and I think it is, it says for Android, iOS, and Nintendo Switch. It's a Zynga game. It's free to play, like I said, and it's pretty much an arena-based combat game, it looks like. So you can check out the trailer for yourself. But the bigger news is in these next couple, which is Spider-Man 2 announced by Insomniac Games from this PlayStation Showcase. So it was a surprise, definitely to me. And it was probably a surprise to other people that Insomniac had announced Spider-Man 2, continuing the story of Peter Parker and Miles Morales. They are in the game together, shown prominently. Apparently, Venom also shows up in the trailer at the end, and there was a voiceover by what I'm believing is Morlun, because that definitely sounds like a Morlun type character, let's just say. But I don't believe it says that in this article. But regardless, also Tony Todd, yes, that Tony Todd, Candyman, is voicing Venom in this game. So that's great news in itself. But also, announced during this showcase was a new Wolverine game, also being made by Insomniac. So the same folks that brought you the great Spider-Man and Miles Morales games are now going to bring you a Wolverine game. And in the trailer for the Wolverine game, which was a simple trailer, no gameplay or anything, apparently there was an Easter egg for Wolverine's first appearance in comics, which was Hulk 181, Incredible Hulk 181. So I did not pick that up when I saw the reveal trailer because I was just not freaking out, but I was just tripping over the fact of like, what the hell is this video? And then when he popped his claws, I was like, oh shit, we get a new Wolverine game. So that's kind of dope. You can go check out the trailer at your leisure. It's out there. Next up. You're muted.
I'm going to skip the symbiote Spider-Man story and move on to Marvel revealing the, quote, last stand of Conan the Barbarian. It's their latest new project featuring the iconic barbarian hero. It's poised to finally shed light on the last and least known chapter of Conan's life. So King Conan is written by Jason Aaron and drawn by Mahmoud Asrar, the same team who launched Marvel's monthly Conan the Barbarian comic in 2019. The 6-issue series picks up where their run left off in Conan the Barbarian number 12, as an aging King Conan and his son Prince Khan sail west from Aquilonia and seek out new adventures in an unfamiliar land. Okay.
Khan! Return to the world of Old Man Logan with 5 new Wastelander stories from Marvel. Marvel Comics is returning to the Wasteland, the alt-future post-apocalyptic environment inhabited by Old Man Logan. Running weekly through December, the 5 one-shots will focus on Wolverine, Hawkeye, Doctor Doom, Peter Quill, and the new Black Widow, whose identity remains a mystery. All 5 one-shots will feature interlocking variant covers themed around the Wastelanders podcast, which features audio drama stories set in the Old Man Logan era. First up, on December 1st, Wastelanders number 1 Wolverine from writer Stephen S. DeKnight. You may know him from the Netflix's Daredevil show. And Ibrahim Mustafa will tell a new tale of Old Man Logan set after the events of the original story. In the new tale, Logan finds himself as the guardian of a baby Hulk against a new adamantium armor-clad villain known as Downfall. Which I want to say, I don't know if this is the same baby Hulk that grows up and ends up being in the Adventures of the Wasteland, but that's I feel like that's probably safe to say. And then there's some other ones I'm not going to go into, but there's there's going to be a different one this week. Oh, Tarun Grunbeck is writing Wastelander's Doom, so that ought to be interesting because we've been enjoying her work.
Yep.
So, yeah. But you can read about the rest of these in the article. Next up, writer-artist Mike Mignola is coming out of his sorta comic book artist retirement to draw his first new comic book in 5 years. And it's not a technically Hellboy comic. Mignola is in the middle of drawing Sir Edward Grey, Sharon, a one-shot comic set in the world of Hellboy, aka the Mignola-verse, and it's instead focused on a 19th century paranormal investigator that is cursed with everlasting life thanks to some time spent in hell. That's right, the hell that Hellboy is from. This will be Mignola's first time drawing a full comic since June 2016's Hellboy in Hell number 16, the finale of that series, and according to Mignola, the finale of the Hellboy character. This Sir Edward Grey Sharon book goes on sale on December 1st. Attack on Titan's final volume gets release date, retailer variant covers. The English release of Attack on Titan will wrap this fall when the final volume of Hajime Isayama's bleak epic tale hits store shelves. Publisher Kodakawa announced today that the final volume, for the final collective volume, of Attack on Titan will hit store shelves on October 19th. In addition to the standard release that will be available to all retailers, 3 special editions of the series finale will be sold exclusively at 3 chains. Kinokuniya, USA, Barnes & Noble, and Books A Million, which I did not know there was any Books A Million still around. Books A Million will get a special variant cover drawn by Isayama himself, while the Barnes & Noble's edition will feature an exclusive poster of Mikasa Ackerman. So I know which version Agent 70 is going to get.
I was about to say, it's not Mikasa, remember? Mikasa's the volleyball.
Yes.
Mikasa.
Yes. Again, sue me on my pronunciation. You know.
But I remember going on a whole rant about that.
Yeah.
As soon as I brought up, Roddykat had the flash of recognition. I was like, oh yeah, there's a whole volleyball thing.
Yeah. Customers who pick up the copy of Barnes & Noble will also be able to separately purchase a limited edition tote bag that is also branded with the image of Mikasa. And this other store will get another different variant cover. So yeah, there you go. So if you are chomping at the bit to get that last volume of Attack on Titans, and you already haven't gone through other means to read it,
right.
There you go. Next up.
Yeah, we don't recommend that, but if you really want it.
Yeah, and I know there are more, let's say, avid manga readers who have already done it. Though at least a couple of the ones that I know, anyway.
Right. I know them too. I don't know those same ones, but I have similar. I have similar contacts who are doing their best to keep up with the manga. So I am woefully behind on any sort of manga reading. So it's something where I want to support the creators, the mangaka as they're called.
Yes.
But at the same time, it's a lot to invest.
It is,
and even catch up, and you need space as well.
Yeah, and even if you're reading those like digital, like not every, like it doesn't come to digital, like. Well, I mean, they've been getting better about digital versions of the manga, and like places like Comixology will put like the first couple of volumes on unlimited, but from there you're on your own. Exactly.
So ultimately, I think more. What's funny is that manga even more so than comics because, actually no, it's the same. It's just a different scale. It's a different size. You still need shelves, and shelving is at a premium if you don't have multiple rooms to keep this stuff in.
True.
So
it is true.
But anyway, next up, Harley Quinn, the Eat, Bang, Kill Tours writer, promises more queer love scenes. Okay. During a DC press conference attended by CBR, Harley Quinn, the writer, T. Franklin, discusses the comic's timely importance. The show made waves in 2019 as an adult-oriented cartoon from DC featuring the Cupid of crime. The catalyst of the cartoon is Harley ending her abusive relationship with Mr. J and setting out to make a name for herself as Gotham's next big bad. As Season 2 progressed, a new relationship began between her and Ivy. Season 3 ended with Ivy's wedding to Kite Man falling through and the almost bride-to-be running away with Harley. While fans of the show await Season 3, they can get a taste for what's in store next in a comic building off of Harley Quinn Season 2. Harley Quinn, the Eat, Bang, Kill Tour, available now both online and in print. During a press conference, series writer T. Franklin discussed how the comic deepens Harley and Ivy's romance. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I haven't watched the show, but I think I did read the first episode, the first issue of this, and yeah, apparently it takes place like right after the running away from the altar, I guess, or shortly thereafter, I would say. So, if you're interested in that, you should go check it out. Last but not least, DC reveals 4 new December series and more of its post-Fear State Batman plans. See, while the historic rivalry is pretty much dead, I'm not sure what that's about. This week's DC somewhat took a page out of Marvel's playbook and has countered its recent announcement of 8 new series with an announcement of 4 new December debuting series of its own, along with a more detailed look at its Batman plans after Fear State. The new titles are highlighted by the all-ages ongoing series Batgirls, which stars former orphan Cassandra Cain, the former spoiler Stephanie Brown, and their mentor and current Batgirl and Oracle Barbara Gordon. That series is being written by Becky Cloonan and Michael Conrad and drawn by George Corona. World of Krypton is a 6-issue series by Robert Venditti and Michael Avon Oeming, set in the past. That depicts the final days of Superman's homeworld as Jor-El struggles to warn his fellow Kryptonians what's coming. And I believe I have seen something else saying that there's a real-world parallel into such as COVID deniers kind of a situation going on in that book. So, yeah, there will be some of that there. The series will also feature Zod and Supergirl when Kara was Kal-El's older cousin on Krypton. Writer Jeff Lemire and artist Doug Mankey tells a gruesome and gory and chilling DC horror tale in the Prestige Plus format 3-part Black Label series Swamp Thing Green Hell that features the return of Alec Holland in a future Earth that's mostly under floodwaters, which unfortunately seems taken straight from the headlines, according to this article. In pretty much the exact opposite direction, One Star Squadron is a broad comedic take on the professional superhero for hire trope, where, quote unquote, where superheroism meets capitalism. It's written by Mark Russell with art by Steve Lieber. The 6-issue series stars Red Tornado, Power Girl, and some C&D listers intentionally who hired themselves out for just about any paying gig. So, there you go.
Right. This is news that was just ahead of the December solicitations, which I don't think they've come out yet for DC in full, but Marvel just dropped theirs today.
Correct. And
you know, the date of this recording, which was we start on Thursday, September 16th.
Right. And you can check out those solicitations in the show notes if you are so inclined. And that, folks, is the end of the news. And we got one more ad read.
You know what we read when we're in a hurry to get out? Help us keep our podcast free by shopping at Amazon. Visit cspn.us and click the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down and click on the Amazon link to shop. Purchase items from Amazon as you normally would, whether it's books, music, electronics, jewelry, apparel, or Marvel Legends. For every purchase made on Amazon through our link, Amazon sends the CSPN a payment that helps us keep the Comic Book Chronicles podcast free for our listeners at no extra cost to you. Amazon.com through CSPN.us. Do it today.
As we come to an end of another exciting episode of this here podcast, I would like to thank each and every one of you for coming out, whether it was in the during the video version or after the fact in the audio version or the video version later on, because you'll probably be seeing some version of this get put back up on YouTube at some point. Haha. And with that, folks, I have been Roddykat. You can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at News Nerds Need on Twitter. You can find me at the CB Caps on Instagram. Agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram. PC_Dirt on Twitter, PopCultureNet on Twitter, PopCultureNetwork.com, and all those umbrella sites they're in, and possibly Byte under Comic Reviews, no vowels, if either one of those are still a thing. Tim, DOGG98 on Twitter, the Osiris that is ish. Also, you can find Tim at CB Chron, which is the Comic Book Chronicles Twitter account. You can also find him at The Click Nation on Twitter. That's the KLIQNATION, all one word, theclicknation.com. But also, most importantly, Comic Book Resources, CBR.com, where he's over there writing his face off. You can find this here podcast on the Cold Slither Podcast Network. That's CSPN.us.
Do it today.
You can also find this podcast on your podcast browser place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Coastal Podcast Network's SoundCloud page. You can find us recording live every Thursday night on both the YouTube channel of The Click Nation, that's youtube.com/The Click Nation, and twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles. And Comic Book Chronicles is all one word. And if you're there, give us a follow. Thank you to the folks that have actually been following. We got a couple of follows in the last week for some folks, and I appreciate it. We definitely appreciate it. And again, thank you to the folks that came by tonight. And definitely told us about our audio issues. But thank you for coming by just in general.
Thank you for that. Absolutely. Big thanks, big shout out to those who told us we needed to tweak something to have our audio pipe out to the folks over at Twitch and YouTube.
Yes, that is Well Seasoned Gamer on YouTube, and I am Kamiyu Aresu, my dear love friend, on Twitch. And with that, folks, this has been the Comic Book Chronicles. Peace.
Peace. One.
And knowing is half the battle.